Hello everyone, my name is Clantis and welcome to my YouTube channel. So without further ado, let's get into today's video because it's an interesting one. The day that we've been waiting for has finally arrived, made a bang, and now it is exiting for new drama in South Africa. But before we get to the Dr. Magudumana urgent application being dismissed with cost at the Bloemfontein High Court, let's get to the bad news that we just received. Well, I just received it. Apparently, it's a developing story that's been taking place for the past 3 hours. I'm only getting to hear about it right now because of you guys in my DMs. Like, hey, what do you think about the essing of Thabo Bester's, one of Thabo Bester's investigators? So I went on to, of course, the news channel, and indeed there is bad news that is attached to the Thabo Bester saga. So apparently, the police confirmed the death of one of Thabo Bester's investigators. He shall not be named, because of course we are dealing with a very sensitive matter. I think the only person that we know now, even though we don't know how he looks like, is the investigator that was on the stand, basically testifying as to why the Thabo Bester co-accused should not be granted bail and stuff like that. So I'm just going to have my head most of the time once again looking on my desk because I have my notes there. So this is what I found out. This is one of Thabo Bester's investigators. His name is not publicized, but we know that he was a senior officer and provincial head of organized crime unit in the Free State province. So this is a person who is a ranking really high in the police force. Apparently he has a 31-year experience with the South African Police Services, and he's been an astute investigator or detective who've dedicated his entire life to policing, serving and protecting the people of South Africa. We thank him for that, and may he rest in peace. So what I also found fascinating about this officer is that he was present in court. Basically, he was present at the Bloemfontein High Court where Dr. Nandipha Magudumana's urgent application was being heard, the judgment. And this afternoon, he offed himself. And no apparent reason. I'm not quite sure if he left a letter, if he did leave a letter. So at this point, I'm not going to make any speculations until some sort of details have unfolded, and then we can make our analogy. But already I can hear people with conspiracy theories. Trust me, I also have my own conspiracy theories in my head because we did discuss this before. There was a discussion on social media that we're going to start hearing people falling off like flies on the wall once this whole thing starts unfolding, because they'll get closer and closer and closer to the big fish. And the closer they get to the big fish, people are going to either disappear or essing themselves and things like that. But at this point in time, I've decided that I'm not going to make any speculation except to say my condolences to the family as well as the colleagues of this officer, and we thank him for his service. Kodwa ke khona shamans. So going back to the Dr. Nandipha Magudumana urgent application being dismissed with cost at the Bloemfontein High Court, guys, we called it. This channel called it. We did not even have a slightest doubt that Dr. Magudumana's application will be dismissed with cost, and so it happened. Maybe there may be other YouTube channels that were firm on that belief. I may not be aware of, but we did it on this channel. We called it. We did say that. For me, I would repeat why I said she was going to lose the urgency. That's because she did not define it in her affidavits. Okay, number one, before we even get to the crux of the matter, remember that Dr. Nandipha Magudumana lodged an urgent application through a process of motion. Basically, in motion is just where you're basically giving the court affidavits, like it's sworn statements and saying, okay, my case is based on these things that I have on my court papers rather than verbal evidence. So there she mentioned the fact that you already know what her merits are. She said that she was kidnapped in Tanzania. She was taken to South Africa against her will, which of course defines to kidnapping. She says that she was extradited without the processes of international law being applied, and therefore she wants everything that she's going through with the South African police, with the National Prosecuting Authority, with the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court. Those processes are happening against her in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court. Kroonstad, the women's prison, as well as the process that Minister of Home Affairs took against her, all of it to be nullified, basically. And so that is why she made the urgent application. But in my question, which is something that even the Judge Lobster, also stated in his judgment, that you had ample time to lodge an urgent application at an appropriate court and at an appropriate time. That appropriate time is bail application. And I've said that in her urgent application to the Bloemfontein High Court, she did not specify. In fact, she did not say anything about the urgency, because as far as I'm concerned, the urgency in her application is how her liberty is being violated. Remember, our freedom of movement, our freedom of choice, our freedom, basically Chapter 2 of the Constitution, those are the fundamental rights that we are entitled to as the people of South Africa, and anybody that is under the sun of South Africa, not just South African citizens, but anybody that is under the sun of South Africa, you are protected by the South African Constitution, and your liberty is a very important right that all of us are entitled to. So when you are being detained, imprisoned, without being given an opportunity to fight for your liberty, that is urgent as far as I'm concerned. But now she decided on her third appearance at the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court, when she's supposed to apply for bail, she said, we'll park this one for now because there's some evidence that has come to light and they would like to pursue that evidence. However, that does not mean that they're abandoning bail application. They are still going to come back to it, but first let them go and explore what they have explored, and that is the fact that she says that we kidnapped her from Tanzania, and then it was not deportation, but it was extradition, and which was quite interesting, I thought, because I always said this lady has aces up his sleeves, and then she already revealed the first one. Now she's going for the second one, and the third, and the fourth. This lady has us gripped, pinned against the wall, and it's going to be a little bit tough for us to get out. But anyways, I'm not there. And so I did mention that she did not state the urgency of her application. And as a result, here we find ourselves. Even the judge, when he opened his sentence or his judgment, he didn't make mention of the fact that the application did not meet the standards or the rule of the court to accept it as an urgent application. There was no compliance there. However, in the best interest of justice, he then decided to hear the merits of the case. And as a result, he went through everything that we all know. What Dr. Nandipha Magudumana is saying in her application, and what is the respondent saying in the papers as well. And so I also mentioned the fact that the judgment indeed will go against her. However, the judge is going to open a door for her to appeal her matter. And he stated, and I did say what are the things that the judge is going to point at. And he pointed exactly at this, because we have an overzealous government that do things by shortcuts and not looking into the due diligence and processes that will be in their favor. I understand that we are going to elections in 2024, and so they want to impress us as if we'll be impressed with all the good work that they're doing, and yet the past 4 years, they've done nothing for us. We are going through load shedding, and it's getting worse by the day, and they still think that the Dr. Nandipha Magudumana application is just going to make us forget about that. No, that is not going to happen. But I understand why both Dr. Aaron Mutsoaledi as well as Becky Cele and the rest, Papa basically. And this played in the against them in the court because the court did open the space for Dr. Nandipha Magudumana to appeal this matter. And I did say that is going to happen, and exactly that happened because Dr. Nandipha Magudumana's lawyers decided that, okay, they're going to go and consult with Dr. Nandipha Magudumana. Basically, they're going there to advise her that to appeal this matter, we have a chance. And let me tell you something that you're not going to like. When Dr. Nandipha Magudumana is going to take this judgment on review, I'm not quite sure whether she's going to approach a full bench. A full bench is 3 judges to 5. Or she's going to go to the Supreme Court of Appeal or straight to the Constitutional Court. I'm not quite sure. But my best bet is she's going to the Constitutional Court. That's my best bet. She's going straight to the Constitutional Court. She would lodge an urgent application there regarding this very thing. Because the court in Bloemfontein said that was an extradition. It was not deportation. That was an extradition. Extradition laws and principles and stuff like that were not followed by Tanzania and South Africa. The fact that the High Commissioner of South Africa in Tanzania handed over and made agreements. It's also in the affidavit, what you call this supporting affidavit, that there was an agreement between South Africa and Tanzania to hand over Dr. Nandipha Magudumana to the South African authorities. And the South African authorities, what business do they have to go to another country when deportation is unilateral decision that is made by a country that takes an unwanted alien and eject them out of the country? That was quite interesting and opapa of our government trying to impress when they're not supposed to be impressing us. Yes, there will be public opinion and public anguish, but still under that pressure, you still have to follow the letter of the law, and so that you don't find yourself wanting like how they've been found wanting by this court. So once again, if you looked at the opening statement by the judge, from his judgment, he basically said, like I mentioned earlier, that he did not see urgency because urgency was not presented before him. Initially, I thought that the judgment was going to last about 10 to 12 minutes. Basically, he was going to just sit down with one piece of paper and say, urgency was not presented in this court, therefore this case is dismissed of cost, and then makes his orders and leave. No, but because he decided that in the interest of justice is going to hear the merits of the case, and hence it took almost an hour for him to deliver his judgment because he had to go through everything that he had heard in the court. So in his judgment, Judge Lobster also indicated that Dr. Nandipha Magudumana, when she was handed over, she was aware that she is facing criminal charges back in South Africa. Secondly, she did not protest. Basically, she was not screaming and kicking while being taken into that private jet that brought her back to South Africa. And I still say, Dr. Nandipha Magudumana, pay back the money, because we don't give lifts to people like yourselves. We need that money back. However, though, so the judge was like, he was short of saying you should have been screaming and kicking. But because you did not, you even mentioned the fact that you needed to get back to your children back in South Africa, that constituted consent. So she basically willingly participated in her handover to the South African authorities and brought back home. So the court also made sure that she understood that should she have any issue with all the processes that had taken place in Tanzania, South Africa is not the place to bring her application to. She needs to go to the Tanzanian court and make an application and let them know that she was unhappy with how she was handed over to the South African authorities, and also not given an opportunity to decide whether she wants to go with the South African authorities or go elsewhere after being deported. I thought that was a little bit funny and sarcastic in other words, because how would she go back to Tanzania and lodge an application when she's not needed there? There is a notice of prohibition of an unwanted immigrant in Tanzania, and there you go and make an application. That was funny. So because her case was bundled in an affidavit, the court relied on that affidavit, everything that she had mentioned in the affidavit. Even though I felt like I remember saying this, I felt like Katz also sneaked in some new evidence, like the press statement or press briefing by the Minister of Police, as well as Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, into into his evidence, but the court decided to struck those two evidence aside. In fact, they struck off the evidence about the press statements, and the court said Dr. Nandipha Magudumana had ample time to include that in her application, but these statements were already live on the South African public from the 8th, 10th, and 13th of May, and she only lodged her application around the 19th of May. So that was struck off. The other thing that she also tried to sneak in was the fact that when she was being deported from Tanzania, she had consulted with a Tanzanian lawyer. This was not included in her papers, but they tried to sneak it in, so that was also inadmissible, and it was thrown out by the judge. But anyways, she did win some in her application, like indeed she was extradited illegally to South Africa, and that was not deportation at all, because all the rules that guides deportation were not followed, and also the rules and laws, international laws that regulate extradition, were also violated by both Tanzania and South Africa. All because there is the mention of handover. You see, you need to be careful whenever you are drawing court papers that you do not use words that are going to be used against you at interpretation. Same goes with the High Commissioner. She used the word agreed, and that came and bit them in the butt. And then the word also handover came back and also bit them in the butt, because at the end it was interpreted as extradition. So the court was quite short of saying, indeed, she was kidnapped. But the court quickly also caught itself by saying that she did not protest. She agreed, she willingly allowed herself to be handed over to the South African authorities. So in other words, Dr. Nandipha Magudumana had a good case. She would have won this application had she mentioned or described why she parked her constitutional right to apply for bail. She would have won that one. She also would have won the fact that she was brought to South Africa illegally, and that would have been the end of the case. In South Africa, we will be licking our wounds right now. But because of one teensy-weensy little mistake that she made, she did not scream, kick, and cry when she was being handed over to the South African authorities, and therefore the court interpreted that as a willing participant, and as a result, there is no kidnapping here, and the court dismissed her application with costs. So what are my thoughts about this entire saga that took place today? I must say that it's not something for us to celebrate just yet. It's a very short-lived victory, but the danger still lurks. And the danger here is she's going to take this matter to the Constitutional Court, where she'll appeal it, and her chances of winning that are pretty high. Pretty high, even though the Constitutional Court itself will want to know, why did you park your constitutional rights to apply for bail when you were given the opportunity to apply for bail? So on the fact that this was an extradition and this extradition was illegal, there she stands a very, very, very good chance of coming back victorious. And if she does come back victorious, thing is, the question now will be, will her criminal charges be nullified? Or that will give her an opportunity when she goes back to the magistrate's court to apply for bail. Then she uses the constitutional court judgment and say, well, I was brought back to South Africa illegally, so you have to grant me bail. I'm no flight risk. Take my passport. Here you go. Here you go. But I just also want to know something, guys. It looks like there is a corridor that is opened for high-profile people who commit crimes in the country to skip it without any border stamps. Think of Bushiri. How did Bushiri get back home? Think about Dr. Nandipha Magudumana and Thabo Bester. How did they get to Tanzania? Because apparently these guys have been living in Tanzania for the past 30 days while everybody was we were busy looking for them. Who is that corridor? Is that corridor at OR Tambo International Airport? Is the corridor at Lanseria International Airport? Is the corridor at Waterkloof Military Airport? Where is this corridor at? Once the authorities find that, you will seal the borders of South Africa from criminals. I'm talking now high-profile criminals from escaping the country, from justice, basically. So I find that very interesting. But as I said, my thoughts are she will appeal this matter to the Constitutional Court, and that is where the danger is, because her fundamental constitutional rights were violated in Tanzania. And the Constitutional Court takes our constitutional rights very, very seriously. It's the custodian of our constitutional rights. So her being brought back here and not giving a choice and all that stuff, the Constitutional Court might actually agree with her and basically send her victorious. If she decides not to appeal the matter, will she apply for bail? I don't think she will apply for bail. I think she would abandon the whole idea of bail because she knows that she's a flight risk. Come on, she was found in Tanzania. So I don't think she will apply for bail on those grounds. She would rather take a chance at trial and by not pleading guilty. So what do I predict going forward? I do predict that Nastasia Jansen, her case will be dropped. I do also believe that Dr. Nandipha Magudumana's father's case also will be dropped. And I also predict that this matter is far from over. We still have a lot of shockers that are coming our way. Thabo Bester himself, he's going to be shocking us. All those stuff are going to be interesting. And then the debate between myself and some people saying, oh no, but fingerprints. And I'm saying ID number. ID number in South Africa is what works. When we apply for things, we don't use our fingerprints. So we write our ID numbers down. And Thabo Bester is like, I did not have an ID number when I was convicted in 2012. And I agree with that. He did not. Who did you arrest? Who did you convict? He's coming for that. He is coming with all of that. And our heads are going to spin when actually he brings this application to the courts. And he too, if he loses in the lower courts, he's going to the Constitutional Court. And that is where the Popeye shall dance. Anyways, guys, that is it with this video, and I hope that it was quite clear. I didn't have to repeat anything because we already been discussing the merits of the case. My video is basically to say we did call this out. Yeah, the public gallery on this channel called it out, and here we are. So thank you all so much for watching. If you like the video, give it a like and do leave me a comment down below. I highly appreciate that. I always enjoy reading your comments. Some of y'all are very interesting. And also share this video far and wide. Thank you for watching once again. I'll see you next time with a new video. Goodbye.